Welcome
Yes.
to the Duluth Conservative. It is December 3rd, 2025. Shout out, happy birthday, Ritu, woman I work with. How you doing, Dave?
Surviving, even though it's going to get below zero tonight.
It's going to get well below zero tonight.
Yeah.
I heard 9 or 10 below.
But on the bright side, that's basically what the coldest is going to get. You might have a week at 20 to 30 below, but basically it's as cold as it's going to get. So.
Yeah, but it's not supposed to get this cold until January. It's the beginning of December. That means we can have 3 months of this cold.
Yeah, I seen some stories where they retracted all of the climate change models. So that was interesting, especially on a day like today.
I'm leaving my truck running outside all day today.
Yep.
So we're going to have a great show tonight. And instead of doing a whole overview of the entire show, I'm just going to tell you the main topic: fraud. Fraud in this state of Minnesota. We used to be known for the land of Paul Bunyan. Now we're known for the land of fraud. And it hasn't taken that long to do. And it's rampant. And we tried to get as many little stories as we could put together. And the problem is there's so many. I don't know if we're duplicating or if these are brand new. So we'll go over, that's going to be our first section tonight, is talk about fraud. And then we'll go over Minnesota and Duluth and national and international news as well. But let's talk about fraud in Minnesota. So we're going to talk about the first one. Fraudulent voter registration applications were submitted to election officials and offices in 13 Minnesota counties. That's a WCCO report. So the thing they say can't happen is happening, and that is the Somalian communities were targeted. If you look at that first line on it at the top.
Yeah.
Somalian communities were targeted to register fake voters for Democrats. This was funded by us. So I work during the day. I work into Wednesday before I start working for myself. And what that does is they take money from me, take money from you, and give it to these groups to make sure that it goes to these communities so that they can vote for the Democrats. Because as we talked about before, Dave, when we talk about the politicians not solving problems, I don't agree with that. Politicians are solving the problems. It's just not the problems that you think they should be solving. Their problem is, I need to get elected again so I can grift some more money. They're solving that problem brilliantly, but they're not solving the problem of how does it help us, right?
Or Minnesota, yep.
So I remember reading or hearing that the county commissioner said something like, well, this just shows how well it's working. We caught them. Well, how do you know it's working? How do you know you've caught everyone? This is an indication that they are trying to do it. And you may have caught something, but I bet you caught maybe 10% of the fraud.
Yeah, and it's Trump that was out helping. If it wasn't Trump in the federal looking into the fraud problem, we probably would never have heard about any of it. Right. It's helping them. Why would they throw someone in jail that's helping them?
Exactly. And how many states are there? The 20-some states that refuse to give their voter information to the federal government.
Yeah.
And that's not who people vote for, because we don't know that. You don't know at an individual level when you go in to vote. You can't tell who that person voted for, at least not if you're doing it right. Correct. But they refuse to give that information because they know it's going to uncover a lot of fraud. And I think all except one was a Democrat governor of that state that refused to give that information. Minnesota was one of them. So that's great. Good story to start off with.
Yeah, way to start.
We start with the light ones. Well, let's keep going down the fraud thing. Over 400 Minnesota Department of Human Services employees, this is the Minnesota Department of Human Services, have accused Governor Tim Walz of ignoring widespread Somali community fraud warnings and then retaliating against whistleblowers. And this is his own department talking about it. Now, have you seen much coverage of this in the local news? I haven't.
Not locally, no, not at all.
Just like many other things that happen in Duluth, unless you're reading the Duluth Monitor, you're not going to know about it. That's the only paper I've found so far that has been covering hard topics. And is, from what I can tell, from what I read, the people running it or the people writing articles are fair. Like, they don't pick a side. They're not conservative. They're not liberal. I don't know what they are. And that's what I want. What I want is them to go after everybody or try to get the truth out of everybody. And so that publication, I actually have a subscription to now because I find it very worthwhile. So what do you make of that Department of Human Services employees going after Governor Walz?
I think it's sad because they tried to do it through the proper channels, and then when no one would listen to them, they just had to go somewhere else.
They had to go to the media.
They said the same thing to the New York Times, and they were forced to do it because they knew there was fraud going on, and nobody would do anything about it. So it's their responsibility as Minnesota taxpayers to, get the word out. And if the governor isn't going to do it, then you find somebody else who does. So they were forced into it by Walz.
Yeah. And remember, while they had the trifecta, if you mentioned fraud in this state, they laughed about it. They wouldn't do a thing about it. The only time they've gotten motivated to actually do something about it now is when we have a tied House and almost a tied Senate. But before that, they wouldn't even mention it. They just disregarded it as not true. And that's how we got to where we are today.
Right.
$18 billion surplus spent, $10 billion tax increase, and a $7 billion debt. That's $35 billion right there of excess money, not including the budget itself. And that's what you and I are paying for, Dave. As for people probably listening are paying for too. And that's why you go to work. Congratulations. I think there's a term for something where you work for somebody else and they take the fruits of your labor, but I can't put my finger on it. I'll think of it sooner or later.
Yeah, we'll figure that one out.
So when they go after Walz and they say, do you take accountability for this Somalian problem? What he says is just gibberish. He's a word salad like Kamala Harris. He just says, it's Trump's fault. He actually blamed Trump for the problems. And then I had actually down further, and I'll cover it again because I like the story so much. Trump called Walz seriously retarded, and then so that the press went back and you said you quote seriously retarded. Do you regret saying it? He said no. There's something wrong with this guy. You see what he's done to the state,
right?
And there's still supporters of him. That's what I don't understand. There's still people that are backing this guy. Even after all the corruption in this state that he's introduced since 2019, we've become little Chicago here in Minnesota. It's horrible. But he is facing federal investigations now. It's another news story. Conservative outlets have alleged millions of dollars from straight programs have ended up in the hands of Al-Shabaab, a terrorist and Islamic militant organization with roots in Somalia and the Horn of Africa. So the Department of Homeland Security is coming out, and the Department of Health Services here is the one who's been going after Walz.
Right.
But even with all that, as we skip to our next topic, ABC, NBC, and CBS Even News are ignoring this, and as they always do. They downplay anything that hurts the Democrats, and they go with anything that would hurt the Republicans or conservatives. They
did cover the retarded story, though.
Well, that's because they think it makes Trump look bad.
Correct, yep.
And just on a side note, along this same vein, I've seen a couple articles. Number one was this woman saying that Trump is cognitively declining and he's forgetting things. He's falling asleep. And, how long are we going to let this last? This is a direct line back from Biden. 4 years, they ignored a guy who was definitely cognitively declining. And now, instead of having done anything about that, they go and attack Trump to make a narrative. They're trying to make this narrative. And it's sad because there are people that will just eat it up without stopping to think and say, wait a second, I'm not seeing the same thing I saw with Biden. Biden was working maybe a day or a couple hours a day, and then he'd be on vacation for 2 weeks. Trump's working 12-hour days. He's constantly answering questions from the press ad hoc. He's not picking a person with a prescribed question, which was what Biden was doing. He had the name of the person. He knew what they were going to ask before they asked it. So I see that. And I also see the reports that the Republican base is fragmented and they're having a civil war. That's not true. You will have discussions within a party about the proper policy. If you're not, you're just a lemming like a Pete Johnson who will just do anything the Democrat Party says.
Right.
But if you're not, if you're actually thinking about things, you're going to have disagreements. That's not considered a civil war. That's just called a disagreement.
Yeah, and I seen I should have grabbed it, but I seen a article on new polling results showing the Democrat Party has dropped down to 6% approval rating.
6%.
Yeah,
Wow.
now they're into the single digits. Probably 2 months ago we were talking about them at their lowest was around 18%, and now they're below 10%. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, it's getting ridiculous.
Another thing here: Tim Walz was called up by the Washington Post for refusing to take responsibility for Minnesota fraud scandal, and Tim was on this program, and he was embarrassing to watch. And he said, "We are doing everything we can, but to demonize an entire community on the actions of few, it's lazy." Well, we're really actually targeting you as governor of the state to take some responsibility. And this was on NBC News, a very Democrat-friendly news organization.
Correct.
And in fact, even more shocking than that, the New York Times wrote an article about his fraud. Now, when you got the New York Times going against you as a Democrat, you're in serious trouble.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with his governor candidacy. Now, I don't think his ego is going to let him drop out. I honestly don't.
No, he should, though. I mean, he's blatantly going downhill. Everyone, just with the polling data, you would think that everyone's blaming him. So
the only reason I don't count him out completely is because there are people that voted for him after his botched response to the George Floyd thing.
Yeah.
So here's a great post with it. It was Walz is 100% responsible for massive fraud in Minnesota. So who's writing this? Which post is this?
This is off of X. This
Okay.
is a copy of the DHS one that they sent to him originally, or they were talking to him originally, but he ignored it. So eventually, this is the one they sent to the Times.
So this is the Minnesota Health and Human Services
Correct.
people, right?
Yeah.
I mean, these are people that should know, right?
They're at the heart of the matter. Yeah, definitely.
And they're going to take some retaliation for this, I'm sure.
Yeah. And because he even mentioned it in the newspaper article about the retaliation that Walz was doing for exposing his incompetence.
Yeah. The last thing in this line, although this is not the least amount of it, the Department of Transportation shut down Minnesota's non-domiciled CDL program, and it threatens it with a $30 million fine for how it's sending out these CDLs. So that's commercial driver's licenses, CDL. Yep. And the problem is that, what the Trump administration has been taking care of recently is, if you can't read English and you can't speak English, how are you supposed to know what to do in case of an emergency or a problem on the road? You may be able to understand stop signs and stoplights and understand the signs. But if there's a thing saying the accident ahead, slow down, or detour ahead or something, you don't speak English, you shouldn't be driving large trucks on our roads.
Right.
Really, you shouldn't be driving at all on our roads, to be quite honest about it.
Yeah, and it just shows just another example of him allowing fraud to go on. They shouldn't have been getting CDLs to begin with. Now the Duffy, the head of transportation, is going to short us $30 million for not following federal laws.
Right. And you've got, in Minnesota, you've got fraud.
Yep.
The reason you have fraud is because you don't have leadership in our government. And the reason you don't have leadership is because you don't have competent people in politics. Let's start electing competent people, and then we will start seeing a fixing of this system. Until then, you keep electing the same incompetent people, the people that have no credentials to do the job that they think they're doing, the people that are just trying to either ingratiate themselves with power or money. I don't think you in the Minnesota House or Minnesota Senate, you're making a lot of money. That happens at the national level. But until you stop voting for the people that aren't competent to do the job, you will not get a turnaround in this. You will get higher taxes. You'll get rampant crime, and no bail, no pay bail. So people are just out the same day. And that's what you're seeing in downtown Minneapolis, in that area. So take a step back, start figuring out what people are doing, and are you actually going to be somebody that can, are you voting for somebody that can make a difference for the good of everybody and the good of you? You should be looking at both of those. So that's my take on it. What do you think, Dave? We'll wrap up the fraud segment with your thoughts.
Well, I listened to the NBC interview, and he said the line, and we are doing everything we can, but to demonize an entire community on the action of a few, it's lazy.
Right.
But when we had the Annunciation shooting, he wanted to ban all guns. So you have, one bad apple shooting up a school. Therefore, we should ban all guns, because that's,
right.
He's, once again, we're back to hypocrisy in the Democrat Party. He's, well, we can't. The Somalians did all the fraud in Minnesota. Well, we can't demonize the whole community.
Right.
But if someone uses a gun, well, then we can. That's
exactly.
To demonize the whole gun-toting community.
It's double think, and it's double speak, right?
He's just a moron, top to bottom, hypocrite. He for his own, like you said, he's not going to ever do it, but he should be dropping out of the race. I mean,
if he had any kind of pride or smarts, and unfortunately, zero of that. So not much chance. I'm still thinking my mom's wrong. I think you do like this guy somehow, but no, I don't know. She has the impression that you don't like him.
I'm still waiting for him to do one thing right. It's weird.
Well, maybe dropping out will be the thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll like him more when he moves out of the state and never is in politics again. I'll like him. So,
yeah, I have a question for you. Odds on how long he stays in the state once he gets voted out. How long do you think he's going to live in this state?
Well, until his free housing goes away.
Well, if he lost the election, from my understanding, he doesn't own property in Minnesota.
No, because he sold his house and moved into the donated governor's mansion, which was on Summit Avenue, but now that one's getting remodeled for. Well, it started out as 80 million. I think it's 120 million or now, whatever. And he's on Sunshine Lake, just south of the Capitol.
Yeah.
Another private community. So as soon as that free stuff runs out, he's gone. And stay in Minnesota, he's gone.
Yeah. I don't think of him as being a Minnesota guy at all. No. So he doesn't have roots here. He's not a typical guy. The best part is Kamala Harris picked him because he was supposed to talk to the men of America. Ooh, you really don't have your finger on the pulse, do you, lady?
No, maybe the Southern California dancing community.
Okay, yeah. You do have a very specific community, right?
Yeah, with his jazz hands, but not Minnesota man. No, sorry.
All right, we're going to go to the legislation stuff, and it really doesn't fall into legislation, but I thought I'd stick it in here. Yeah, Minnesota State News, that looks good. But I'm going to talk about our Duluth News Tribune endorsed representatives Leash Kozlowski, and then a little bit about Pete Johnson. So let's talk about Leash. We got this thing I'm going to add to the stage. So there were ICE agents in St. Paul, and we'll talk about that in a second. She was pepper sprayed, or at least she said she was pepper sprayed when the ICE raids in St. Paul, which they were protesting. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, ICE, immigration, what are they? ICE?
Immigration Control and Enforcement.
Right. So they're the ones that are rounding up people who are in this country illegally and putting them back to their homes. So, yeah, so there was a big arrest here. If you look at it, the ICE arrest was for Victor Rodriguez, a criminal illegal alien from Honduras who was previously removed from the country. The criminal's rap sheet included domestic abuse and disorderly conduct. He chose to commit a felony by illegally re-entering the United States. So they were there to pick him up. And automatically, and for spontaneously, and for some reason, protesters know where this is happening, and they show up. One of which is a Duluth representative in the Minnesota House in St. Paul for some reason,
right?
And goes there and causes trouble and says she got pepper sprayed. I don't think there's anything that, I don't know if there's any proof of that. I don't know. I'm not saying she's lying. I'm just saying I haven't seen any proof of it.
Well, I'm sure she was in the area where they were pepper spraying. Therefore, that's considered she was pepper.
Right. So she posted something, and this is your Minnesota. Oh, you just took it out. Can you take that off for a second?
Yeah.
This is what she wrote on a Facebook site. The first part, that is, I don't know what the F and then those characters mean, Dave. I'm confused and concerned about what she's saying, but I have a feeling I know what it is. It's a certain word that isn't very good. And that's what she starts out. This is a government official talking about another government agency, and she's saying something pretty foul about him. And then she starts talking about, from Duluth and Iron Range, Northfield to cities, our immigrant and communities of color are interconnected. How? How are immigrants and communities of color interconnected? That doesn't make any sense to me. An immigrant or an illegal immigrant or illegal alien can be from any country, from any race, right?
Correct.
This is blatantly wrong and shameful terrorizing of our families and communities across the state. No, it's not. It is taking people that shouldn't be here and putting them back home. That doesn't mean they're getting killed. They're not getting disappeared, whatever they call it. They're being put back in their house with their families.
Yep.
Witnessed and experienced ICE make an extreme show of force with indiscriminate use of pepper spray, rubber bullets, and chemical munitions on peaceful and calm legal observers, news reporters, and electeds. So she's one of those. She's an elected. See, you can't touch the higher class like that, right?
Correct.
I have never seen one of these things where it was uninitiated. Like, they don't just go and see a crowd there who's maybe waving signs or saying stuff and pepper spray them. It's because they're right in their face and they can't get away from it, but they continue to lie as if they didn't do anything. I mean, I've seen these guys screaming at these right in their face and then doing something, and they'll spray them to say, get back. And then they spray them, and then they cry as if, why are you attacking us? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I like the word observers. They're not observing, they're protesting. They are stopping the ability for the ICE to do their job, to arrest someone who's a criminal. There's no other way to put it. He's a criminal and he doesn't belong in the United States.
Right. And they're doing their job. And if you wouldn't get in their way, it wouldn't be aggressive like this.
Right.
There was more on there. I don't want to remove it quite yet. So
no, you have to. There you
go.
So
I'll never unhear the sound of them literally cracking someone's head into the concrete, then deny medical care for over an hour. So a couple things about this. I don't believe it. And number two, so they take action against somebody and then they're responsible for providing medical care. Do you see that? You see how that works? She relies on them for, where were you? Why weren't you providing medical care? You're an elected, whatever it's called, right? And denied medical care for over an hour. Well, you probably were causing such a scene that they couldn't get an ambulance there. Proud of my fierce human. What does that mean? Proud of my fierce human. What does that mean?
It's her double speak, because she doesn't know what she is or he is, or she's a trans person, therefore everyone has to be trans like her. So because she didn't know exactly their pronouns, she just used the word human.
Got it. Not on our time, not on our land. Huh. I wonder who she's speaking for here.
Yeah, she's in St. Paul, so she's obviously not representing Duluth.
Right. I'm tired of this woman being our representative. It's embarrassing. She doesn't represent Duluth. She doesn't come up with any brand new ideas for Duluth or anything that's going to make our lives better. And she's in St. Paul quite a bit, as far as I understand. I don't understand why people vote for her. And she calls it stolen land. We live on stolen land. She's actively trying to help people evade ICE, try to stay here illegally. You know what? I don't support people being in our state illegally. I don't endorse putting them out on our reservations illegally either. So we need to stop all the talk about this and get these people out of our country, because just think of what we could be doing instead of this. Instead of all this work that's being gone into getting these people out of our country, if they wouldn't have come, we could divert those resources into something better. But we can't do it right now because we have to take care of this problem first. You don't start repainting the deck of your boat when you've got a hole in the bottom of it. You fix the hole. But man, if that hole didn't appear, you can make your boat look a lot better. That's the analogy I have for this. So
yeah, she clearly isn't representing anybody but herself and her own messed up. If we would just think, our schools are failing. We could list the problems with the state, but she would rather spend the money on people who don't belong here and criminals. ICE isn't picking up, the hardworking people. They're going after the people that don't belong here.
Right.
Our elected officials in Washington, because immigration is a federal thing. And if she's going to sit there and stop federal problems, then she should be in jail with everybody else.
Right. She is an activist. She's not a legislator.
Yeah.
That track record of hers now for 3 years shows that she doesn't give a crap about Duluth. She doesn't do any bills that forward Duluth. What she does is she picks the things that matter to her, and that's it. And what matters to her is not Duluth. It is forwarding her agenda. That's all she's doing.
Right.
Going to the other side of town with Pete Johnson, he sent out a newsletter, and it says, actually, I think I took a screenshot of this, so I will pop it up here. Here, can you take that down for a second?
Oops, yep.
So this is from his newsletter. If you're a homeowner, by the time you read this, you should have received your county truth and taxation notice, or should receive it shortly. If you're like me, you were shocked by the increased property taxes you're facing. At a time of economic uncertainty and rising costs, we need to focus on affordability. Unfortunately, President Trump and his Republican allies are more focused on delivering tax breaks for billionaires than giving the middle class an opportunity to thrive. His short-sighted cuts and disinvestment in critical federal services like SNAP are shifting more responsibilities into our state and local governments. So Pete here starts out talking about property taxes, which are a county issue, and then turns it to blame Donald Trump for something.
Yeah.
Pete, here's a message for you directly from me. You are a Minnesota representative. It's your job to fix the taxes in the state. It's your job to make it more affordable here. You're too busy doing everything under the sun for the Democrats. I mean, when you look at your bills that you introduced this first term of yours, it's a lesson in not having a focus. You don't know what you'll just support anything. You're just the whipping boy that they say, will you sign on to this? Sure, I'll sign on. It gets my name on it. I will say this, in Leash is at least consistent. I can follow the train of what she's doing. She only cares about herself and her people. Pete just doesn't care about anything. He just puts his name on everything and just enjoys it. So Pete, I'll tell you what, do your job and help us out. Quit complaining about what happens at the federal level with Donald Trump, and don't talk about billionaires.
Right.
Do your job. Cut our taxes here. Cut some of these programs here. Be a man and take care of your job, or get out. There's another option. If you're just going to be there being the empty suit for the Democrat Party, they could just put a chicken in its place and it'll vote the right way.
Right. Yeah, and the SNAP benefits, who kept the government closed? It was the Democrats. It wasn't the Republicans.
Yeah.
If they would have, they finally talked some sense into some Democrats to reopen the other, then the SNAP benefits would have never closed because it was a clean CR and they didn't do anything about it.
Right.
They wanted people to suffer to, for elections, basically.
Right. Exactly. And it's just kind of telling that the Minnesota rep would talk about taxes first to talk about how bad it was and then shift the focus to federal level, which, by the way, Donald Trump is proposing getting rid of the federal income tax and trying to do a tariffs and extra tax, income outgo tax or something like that. I can't remember what it's called, but he wants to eliminate the federal income tax. So you know what? That's helping. If you propose the thing to get rid of property taxes, that's helping. Or freezing it for people that are 65 and over, or first-time home buyers or people that just have babies, to freeze their property taxes, or to limit it at 3%. That stuff helps. What you're talking about is nothing. You don't propose anything that fixes it. All you do is propose that there's a problem and look at the bad billionaires that are taking advantage of it. Well, you know what, Pete, also, those billionaires pay a lot more in taxes than you ever have in your lifetime in 1 year.
Right.
Unless they're those trust fund kids who are just making it off investments and just letting it fly. Sooner or later, they have to take money out and they get an unrealized gain tax, right? But, I can guarantee I pay more taxes than you do, Pete. I'm not a billionaire. So there we go.
Yeah, and that's what the county's doing is instead of, they'll push you so you have to cut your life down, but they're county government and they're not going to, because they have inflation to deal with and they have rising costs to deal with, but you don't. So they can raise your taxes 12%.
My property taxes went to over $10,000 a year. That's almost double from when I bought the house not even 8 years ago.
Yep. That's
Minnesota taxing. 12% increase in the county tax. Duluth city tax up 4.5%. Your whole vacation time thing that your family leave act that you're hitting all the employers for, and the employees, by the way. So the employers have the option of paying it all themselves or pushing half of it their employees. Well, they're going to push it to their employees. So now you as a worker get to pay for this extra insurance too, which is going in underfunded, by the way.
Right.
They thought that was going to need a 1.24% tax, and they've taxed it at 0.88%, and they delayed it, right? So they passed it, the delayed implementation, so you'd forget about who passed it, and they also underfunded it. So when you get hit next year for another big tax increase, it's already in place. You can't get rid of it now. That's crazy talk.
And the biggest problem is people forget about it when they by the time the voting comes around, they'll forget about that tax. So
that's why you do the delayed implementation of every one of these things.
Yeah.
Last thing in this section of the Minnesota stuff is the Attorney General Ellison has now sued the Trump administration over SNAP eligibility changes for refugee and asylum seekers. So here's another example of our AG, Keith Ellison, looking out for everybody except us, the people who actually pay things. Right. And this is what Pete does. This is basically his job, I guess. Or Keith's job is to look out for people who are here illegally. What good are you? Why don't you go to that country? Leave us alone.
Yeah, why don't you protect Minnesotans and help Minnesotans?
I don't think he's from here either. And I don't think Tim Walz is from here. So why are they governor? Why are they AG?
No, for what I hear, when he was a high school football coach, that was in Missouri.
Yeah, he grew up out there, right?
Yeah, something like that. And even Keith, he was I think he was a born and bred Somalian.
Keith? No, I think he was born in America.
But he didn't. Well, they made a big deal out of him. He wouldn't put his hand on the Bible. It had to be the Quran. So.
No, I believe he's Muslim. I just don't. I think he was born here, but I don't know.
I guess we'd have to look into.
Doesn't matter. I mean, I don't care if he's Muslim if he takes care of Minnesotans. He doesn't. So he's
right.
useless. I'm going to keep going down on Minnesota news. I will mention one more thing about Tim Walz really quickly. Trump called him seriously retarded. Just wanted to mention that again. I don't know if we talked about that or not.
But is he saying something obvious or just
Yeah, it's like, yeah, and the ocean is wet.
Yeah,
it's hot in the desert.
Yeah, we're not. Minnesotans, we already knew this, and so Trump saying it out loud doesn't really make a difference because everybody knew that already.
All the pictures of Walz I see, he's got that 1,000-yard stare going, like he doesn't know what's happening.
Right.
We talked about the CDLs already, so we'll go on to Minneapolis Regional Chamber of Commerce CEO Jonathan Weinhagen pleads guilty to embezzling hundreds of thousands of dollars. Yay, more fraud. I forgot to put it up in this upper section. Sorry.
Yeah, because he worked with Walz.
Ah, yes.
And he's also a political donor.
Only to Jacob Fry.
Yep.
That's fantastic. So he funneled money to himself. And it was supposed to be used for like feeding kids, I believe.
The kids are overweight. They need to starve to death. So that's the state's theory.
And then Minneapolis responds to report that Trump administration will target Somali immigrants. I'll tell you this. Trump has gone hard against the Somali immigrants lately. I mean, he's identified this as a problem. The problem being that you import 80 to 100,000 people from a completely foreign country, something that isn't even close to our system of government or our way of life, and you put them in a concentrated area, they start to just take over that area, right?
Right.
They vote themselves in. They don't vote for the Democrats anymore. That's what Jacob Fry found out. They vote for each other, and then they get put in place. And then the third world problems that they had are just introduced into our nation here. And that's what you're seeing happen. New York City is going to get a really good pounding pretty quick. Minneapolis, missed it by a thread, but they still get Fry. He sucks. He's horrible.
Yeah, he did his whole acceptance speech in Somalian.
Yeah, it's embarrassing.
Yeah. So who does he represent?
Well, according to somebody, Somalis are the backbone of Minnesota. I saw that too. I saw a woman talking about that, and she said, if the Somalians left Minnesota, we would fall apart. They're basically taking care of us. I don't know what world she lives in. She must be very, very confined into a very small community because they weren't here 20 years ago.
Right.
We were doing just fine, right?
But here's what our backbone looks like nowadays.
Oh yeah, no jail time.
No jail time for raping a minor.
Unbelievable.
So how can you call that a backbone of Minnesota when we see this on a daily basis nowadays?
Mm-hmm. Backbreaker.
Yeah. And probably Bloody Mary let him go. He's going to probably get let go on this one too.
Right. Yeah, it's their dream place. I mean, thank God she's not running again. Hope to God we don't get somebody worse.
Right.
Because it always seems like you're like, oh, finally they're leaving. That mayor of Chicago leaves. They get somebody worse. You know, oh, good, Eric Adams is leaving. Oh, they're getting somebody worse. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, especially in New York. It's like, well, only took 24 years for them to forget about who uh, wiped out the Twin Towers
Right. Yeah,
and killed 3,000 people. Well, that was 24 years ago.
there was some serious mind jobs going on after that. Holy cow. There was a lot of re-education done on this country.
Yeah. It's kind of getting tiresome,
I'll give you the last one here. Illegal alien from Somalia, a guy who was supposed to be deported, works for the Ramsey County Sheriff. Perfect. Just perfect.
Right.
And, what is the vetting process now? Illegal alien that should have been deported is working for the sheriff's department. Who is enforcing our laws? And what should you expect when somebody's breaking law and you call the police and somebody shows up? I mean, what are you going to get?
Right.
All
and
right.
even we seen that one video of the Somalian police officer who said he was there for the Somalia community, not the American community.
That's right.
It's like, no,
Yeah.
no, you're in America. You take care of Americans.
And if you think it's racist what we're talking about, I don't care what country you're talking about. You can transport these attitudes towards anybody. I don't want a pocket of a certain country in here, no matter what race, no matter what religion. They will take over that area, and especially if they're fundamentally different from our current culture, you're just causing problems that we don't need.
Right.
Okay, let's move on to Duluth news, shall we? All right.
There we go.
Community Action Duluth closes the farmers market without explanation, owing vendors thousands of dollars. So this is the Duluth Monitor again that came up with this story. I don't know if it's accessible or not, but I put a link to it. But I was reading the article, and the farmers at these farmer markets, they don't always get money. They get like tickets through the system. And then what happens is they turn those tickets in and they get paid the next week. So it was like, first we were getting paid right away. That was what it was for many years. And then about 2 years ago, it was, hey, we're getting paid like a week or two late. It wasn't as bad. This year it's been 3 months. We're not getting paid. And they were getting paid. And then they closed. Done. You're not getting paid. So all those farmers who are working on the razor's edge of margins are getting knocked out of their food or out of their money. And the Community Action Duluth, which sounds like a great organization, they're gone. They got the money. Now they're gone.
Yeah, we need to do a big investigation on that, or the city. I mean, obviously, Karan Keith Ellison isn't going to do anything. So
no.
So it'd be interesting to find out where the money's going, do a financial audit to see what's going on, because you're wiping out, like you said, raise within local people. So
right. The whole purpose of these things is to give local farmers the money.
Correct.
To keep them in business. When you don't give them the money, they go out of business, assuming they're going to have it, right? You wouldn't join a farmer's market thinking you were going to get taken for a ride. But
especially
seems like
they act like they're a city-owned thing. Therefore, it should be guaranteed money. But obviously, it's
they should settle out. If they ever do this again, I'm sure they're going to settle out at the end of the day, as opposed to this.
Right.
I would never fall for this twice. Let's talk about downtown Duluth a little bit. This was the last day that Wells Fargo is going to be open in downtown Duluth. I think they're going to probably take their signs down and their flag, and that's another business lost downtown. And then Snyder's Convenience Store in the Holiday Center. That place has lost so many stores since I moved downtown. You had a sushi place there. You had an Italian place, restaurant there. You had Subway.
Yeah.
Snyder's was something else before, and then they became Snyder's, which was like a downgrade from what it was, but it was still there.
Right.
All that is gone. The only thing in there is a jewelry store and then some business spaces. And then it's a sandwich place. It's pretty good. But they're the only thing left.
I think that's Herbert's. Yeah.
No. This is a name brand. This is one actually in the Holiday Center at the Skyway level.
Okay. I think Herbert's was originally there, but now they're on First Street, I think.
They're on First Street, yeah.
Yeah.
So when Subway closed, they put signs up saying, "Go to Herbert's."
Yeah.
They were right.
Yeah.
So another store gone, and it was a small little convenience. It was a big area, but they didn't have a lot of stuff. It was very sparse, so it was kind of odd going in there. But that is just...
It's still just another business downtown collapsing that because of perceived violence and
right.
And
there's
crimes.
Well, they keep increasing the parking rates.
Yeah.
Right. They talk about putting housing down here. Who's going to convert one of their office buildings to an apartment building? They're not. Yeah, they're not structured that way. They're structured as office buildings. The money it would take to turn them into residential areas, they might as well just implode the building and put up a new one, which costs a lot of money.
Well, right, because the buildings, the biggest problem with the downtown buildings is they're set up for businesses, but not for residential as far as plumbing goes.
Right.
The plumbing for residential, you would need it's like 100 or 200 times more than businesses.
Yep.
So you can't just convert it to residential. There's some major problems that occur because of it, just because they're not set up to handle residential waste.
Oh, I don't know. We could always do a one-stall toilet like we got here at our building with no shower. That would work. We're, a floor full of people.
Yeah, community showers and community bathrooms. And,
right. It's not even talking about the sink you need from your kitchen.
Correct.
Right. That's a lot of plumbing, and the plumbing has to go somewhere, and that's between the floors or in the ceiling.
Right.
That's a big cost, and structurally, it may not work. And can the city provide that kind of plumbing alone? If you start converting it, so
right.
It's a big deal. It's not some simple thing. Well, yeah, we'll just turn them into apartments, because everything is fun when you're just thinking. We'll put roundabouts there, Dave, and then we'll have a fluffy little place that we can go, and it'll be perfect. Well, where are you going to buy your groceries? I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yeah, especially downtown. You can't have a car because there's no gas stations nearby.
No gas stations. Yeah.
No grocery stores. So you have to eat takeout every night.
Yeah, you're going to go down to the Super Value down on 12th Avenue East or something? I don't think so.
Yeah, otherwise you got to go all the way to Central Avenue in West Duluth.
Yeah, right. I suppose you go up to Kenwood too, but
right,
it's not practical, especially when you're trying to we want to get rid of cars. You're gonna have a bike lane? Well, that's great for my 82-year-old mom. You think she's gonna get on a bike and use the bike lane? No.
Yeah, remember, it's going to be -6 tonight.
Right.
Let's see her on a bike.
This, just to put it in perspective, there aren't a lot of people above the age of 30 that ride bikes.
Correct.
Right? I mean, and the older you get, the less likelihood you're going to be riding a bike. So if you got a lot of seniors in a city, I don't know, like in Duluth, maybe a bike lane isn't the priority. Maybe salting some of the roads would be a priority. Okay. I'm done. I'm going way off on a tangent now.
For the city to do their job, yeah, that's kind of going over the line, I guess.
Oh, but Chum is receiving $2.5 million from Bezos. Since it was founded 8 years ago. It's only founded 8 years ago. I wasn't aware of that. Oh, this is the Bezos thing. The fund has awarded more than $850 million in grants to nonprofit groups in all 50 states. So Chum has got $2.5 million now, extra revenue, so they can do what they do with that, and hopefully get the people out of Kenwood pretty soon. And so that's, You were telling me an angle on this, though, was Bezos was trying to kind of soften the mood for the data center, right?
Yeah, but I also forgot about he just put a warehouse out in West Duluth, out in
That's right.
Gary's,
A
and they were talking.
distribution center, right?
Yeah, distribution center, and they were talking about unionizing. So there's another thing he has to put his money into, is to stop them from unionizing.
Oh, that's true.
So that's why you're seeing money now flow into Duluth. Otherwise, if it wasn't for his personal, you never would have seen any money come into Duluth. So
Yeah, I'm gonna grease the wheels, right?
yep.
All right. Next story, last story. DETA approves the Lester Park acquisition. So, have you read this story, Dave?
I read it, but it didn't. You're kind of involved in it a little bit more than I am, so maybe you can enlighten us on what's going on. The only thing that I thought was interesting was going to take 9 months to do a land use study, which is going to cost $350,000.
It'd take 9 months. That's
Yeah.
pure government right there.
You know, when we could have done this 6-7 years ago and already been making, you know, $1 million, making $1 million for the city in property tax for all the residential stuff and the golf course.
Right.
But now we're going to spend more money on trying to make a decision that and I guess they already own a bunch of the land. DETA does.
So, if I'm understanding correctly, this was a place that bought a portion of Lester Park Golf Course, but I should probably read more about it before I even comment on it. It's interesting to see if they're actually selling the land, because the big thing about not wanting to have the golf course idea with the big hotel and everything was because the city council wouldn't allow Duluth to sell the land.
Right.
So I don't know. I'll read more about this and we'll try to look at what this means. I don't know if this is a good thing or it's just another thing that Duluth is doing. At least they're doing something with the land. If they're just going to fill it up with houses, though, I don't know if that really is the answer.
Yeah, and it just sounds like it's a government thing, moving from one government agency to a different government agency.
Could be.
You know, because DETA has different rules than the city does. So, you know.
But what I'm hoping is this is the beginning of selling it to that land developer with the hotel and the restaurants and the golf course. That perfect plan that was estimated conservatively at $10 million income to Duluth per year.
Yeah.
What I fear is it's going to be just a vomit of houses that they're going to stick out there and not have any support for them. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't want to be a negative Nelly now.
Well, they mentioned putting housing and golf course there. So maybe someone is actually listening from DETA to what the best plan is. So
I know that Tim Meyer, the guy who was heading up the Save Lester Park Golf Course, was positive about this, which is good because he wants to have golfing out there. He wants to save that golf course. So that gives me hope that this is actually a good thing. But we'll have to wait and find out what it actually turns into, because intention doesn't mean execution, right?
Yeah, and then the land use is going to take 9 months, so we've got plenty of time to.
City-owned land. Why do you have to do a land use? I mean, geez, what have you been doing this whole time? How do you not know the land you own, especially as part of the city? You probably have mapped every inch of that land and know exactly what's being used for. So this is just a way to transfer more money from the taxpayers to your pockets so you have a job for another 9 months.
That's basically, what's going on. So.
All right, let's kick into national news. We're at the hour mark, about. Tennessee's 7th Congressional District has handed a decisive victory to the Republican. I heard this was going to be the very interesting race to watch, because Trump won this area by 20 points or something, like 22 points.
22, yeah.
And so they were worried that they could actually lose this. But the Republican candidate won by 9 points. So it's a pretty good victory. It just means that if you think that we're safe here, we're not. You got to keep fighting like it's for your life every single election, because it's too easy to lose the rights you have. And we get the wrong Congress, wrong Senate in place, and they can inflict a lot of damage before we can stop them. The Democrats have proven this in Minnesota pretty handily, actually.
Right. But remember, the opponent he was up against was the lady that hated Tennessee.
That's right. She hated like country music. She hates Tennessee.
Yeah. And he only won by 9 points.
Right, exactly.
He should have won by 60, 70 points.
What do they have to say to not get elected? I mean, it's like she was doing a test. It's like a dare. Say this. Say you don't even like the place you're running for. And she still gets a large vote. My God.
Right. That's why it's so ridiculously interesting. It was like...
Next story is Judge Teresa Gonzalez let Lawrence Reed out before he lit a woman on fire, despite prosecutors begging to keep him detained, and 72 prior arrests. She basically admits she's a DEI hire and rules based on how people look. So can you pop that link up? So we're going to put this link on here, and I don't want to play the video actually, but just you can see the judge here. And I saw a comment. This isn't my own thought, but it's a comment that I thought was good. Was if you can put a bartender in jail because he overserves a drunk person, you should be able to put a judge in jail if they're lenient on a person, let them out earlier than they should be, or don't give them the at least minimum sentence, and they commit a crime. You should be liable for that. I think that's a good analogy. You're expecting more from a bartender than you are from a sitting judge. And I don't know how they get this idea that they can just nullify. I think we had a story last week that just said the jury came back with a guilty verdict and the judge just nullified and said, no, I don't agree. So it's not going to happen. Right?
Yeah. So there's a lot of backlash on that too, but we'll see if anything actually happens.
See if anything actually happens. The idea, I don't know if this is an elected judge or an appointed judge, or but I do know that you can elect a judge with absolutely zero legal knowledge whatsoever. They don't have to be a lawyer, have been a lawyer, have any law degree of any kind. That's scary enough in itself.
Yeah, judges supposed to keep the things fair, and that's not a
right.
You know.
Parents sue district after school forced their daughter to share a bed with a trans male student on a trip. So she goes on a trip with her school. I think it was some kind of athletic thing, and they doubled up people in beds, and so they put their daughter in with a guy without telling the parents first either, or getting consent. Yeah. Nobody should have to discover that. If you're a parent, that's your worst fear. Your worst fear is that they're with people that don't know how to take care of your kids.
And don't care.
They encourage it, right? It's even worse.
They're basically encouraging your kid to get raped. So
yeah. You're saying those words, Dave, that are going to get us deplatformed.
Yeah, I suppose.
I don't care. So
give us the week off. Gives us the week off.
It makes it spicy. That's what people want, right?
Yep.
The last news on this site is the White House has put out a site that is the media bias page, and it's going to take a media article once a week and display, here's how it was wrong. And so this is whitehouse.gov/media bias. And this guy right here, I don't know if you saw, he's one of the seditious six, the ones that were encouraging people to disregard orders. So let's just go into that story a little bit. We can take this guy down. So there was, I think, 6 lawmakers or people that had used to work for the CIA and worked for the government and were in the military. And they put a video together, much like that montage video where you saw the news organizations saying the same story. So it's 6 of these people saying the same thing. They spliced together it as if it was one conversation, but all 6 are talking. And they're saying, remember, you don't have to adhere to illegal orders from the president of the United States. You can defy that, which on the surface is factually true. You can refuse to do an illegal order, but they're implying that there are illegal orders being sent to them and trying to stir up controversy where it's not. They don't give any examples of illegal orders. They can't even refer to anything that was slightly illegal. So this is causing problems. What they're trying to do is stir up a hornet's nest right here. And this is one of the first articles they have on this whitehouse.gov media bias site, is to show that.
And I was, because when I heard the story, I was kind of confused on why they were causing it. It was such a big problem. And for what I was reading it was because they're trying to stop the chain of command.
Yeah.
So the military is extremely chain of command oriented. So the lowest person on there only takes order from the next person up, not from the president. So they were trying to disrupt the chain of command. They were saying that, well, if you're the lowest guy on the totem pole, you don't have to listen to the president. And that's completely against the military. That's not how it goes. If your immediate supervisor says do something illegal, then you can stop there. But as the lowest person on the totem pole, you can't disregard what the president says, because that's chain of command, and that's what they were really complaining about, was the chain of command. That's what could get them thrown into jail, was them trying to convince people to ignore the chain of command.
Right. And the implication is, if you're telling them you can ignore illegal orders, your implication is you're implying that there is illegal orders coming through, which is not the case. You're sowing distrust. You're sowing the seeds of distrust and questioning, and you shouldn't do that. If you have a good reason to, back it up. If you can't back it up, shut your mouth.
Right.
And I don't care what their credentials are. I don't think saying you're an ex-CIA is necessarily a very good credential, in my opinion, when it comes to this. Yeah, that's something you don't want to talk about. But so anyway, that's the White House site for media bias. I thought that was interesting. I'll go out to it every once in a while. And people in the city need to have stuff like that, because they don't get the stories here. In Minnesota and Duluth in particular, they don't get stories that are upsetting to the Democrats or put them in a bad light. So when you're only getting positive stories for the Democrats and very negative stories for the Republicans, you pick a side because you think you're right, and then you get shocked by the truth sometimes.
Yeah, we discussed that in the opening fraud monologue. Was you didn't hear about it from the mainstream media,
right?
Because they were protecting Walz, basically,
right?
So you heard about the Trump calling them retarded, because that shows Trump as in a bad light. According to them.
They're trying to make it seem like a bad light. And they don't understand that doesn't. That's the guy I voted for. Yeah.
And everybody in Minnesota knew he was retarded, mentally retarded. That's not an insult. It's a description.
Yeah. And they still voted for him. So what does that make you?
Yeah. So.
All right. We'll move on to international news. This one was very interesting to me. I think we covered this last week, but there was a British man who was arrested and detained for showing a picture of himself. He came to America. He had a shotgun. He was aiming it not at the camera. He was just aiming it probably at a target. And he had a picture taken. And he get back to the UK. They arrested him. Yeah. I didn't even think it was that one. I thought it was a shotgun. But okay, so whatever this gun is.
He was at a Florida shooting range, so he got to play with tons of guns. So there was one of the guns was a shotgun.
Okay, but I mean, how is this? So he said it. They said to be careful because you might be upsetting people. I don't understand why this is upsetting to anybody. This is a guy holding a gun. Looks like clearly he's shooting down at a target range. There's a table there with information. That's what it looks like when you're outside. So it looks like he is suing them, right?
Yeah. See, here's the picture of him.
That's the one I thought. That looked horrible too.
Yeah, it clearly shows he's not a gun guy.
Right.
But you may think we did covered this story last week, but we're basically repeating ourselves because this is a nonstop thing over in England. So
Yeah.
he spent time in jail because he posted this picture. So someone thought it was threatening, therefore you can't do that. So they threw him in jail, and now they pulled the charges back. So now he's suing the police for whatever.
Yeah, the prosecution is the punishment, right? They didn't have anything really on him, so they arrest him. They take his stuff. They go through all his stuff. They took his laptop. They took his phone. Everything.
Yeah.
He was detained for a couple of days. He couldn't work. He couldn't do anything. And then they come back and say, "Oh, no charge."
And he
That's
lost
the
his
punishment.
job because he was a computer guy.
Yeah, the process is the punishment. So grab that next link and show what else they've done. So this is a comparison to the guy that you just saw holding a shotgun very horribly, and then what looked like a long rifle. And then scroll down a little bit. I'm sorry, this may be the wrong link. Now, this must be the wrong link. You got the wrong link. It's an X link. Go to the link above it. It says right under "and for comparison." You see it?
Oh, yeah.
So this link is going to show you a different link here. So this guy was shown with a shotgun and a long rifle at a firing range. So there he is, another picture of him. But now look at the guy on the left. That's a counselor there. That seems more threatening to me. I don't know. He's not at a range or anything. He's just holding a weapon with a picture of somebody behind him. Yeah. And so if you scroll up a little bit, it tells you that is the counselor. He posted a photo of himself holding an AK-47. That is an assault rifle. He keeps his counsel seat, gets suspended only as a magistrate, and in 2025 becomes mayor of Derby. So kind of different, right? Kind of different reactions to him.
Right. So basically the bottom line is don't go to England, because I mean, you have no idea what you've posted on your online account that is going to get you into trouble. I mean, now that we're doing this broadcast, the podcast, it's like we're going to go straight to jail. We'll never see England.
How can they have so much time to prosecute nothing things like this too? I mean, that's a lot of resources with the police. The people had to find it, investigate it, figure out when he's coming back, pick him up, bring him to the place, prosecute, go through his stuff, let him go. That's man hours. That's a lot of man hours of time right there. Right. What a waste too. A waste for nothing.
They've got a ton of problems over there, and what people post online is not one of them.
Ain't one of them, right? And so the last article here is UK, the new spending policies. You don't need to pop this one up. Just talk about it a little bit. They're removing the so-called 2-child limit on welfare, meaning now just have as many as you want, and you're just going to get more and more money. That's worked out so well for America that they're going to try it in UK. And they've increased their public borrowing by 7 billion pounds next year, which translates to about $12 billion. Right. They are on a fast slide down. They are going to be gone soon, the way they're moving. So if you want to go to the UK, try to find that sweet spot between when they don't care anymore about the, what you posted online and their complete downfall. You might be able to get in and see a couple castles before they're taken down.
Right. But remember, you also have digital ID over there now too. So,
that's right.
At the airport, you have to do a public colonoscopy. You have to have your fingerprints taken, your eye retinal scans, blood taken. They check your social media posts. They make sure your phone is unlocked. Because if you don't unlock it for them, they throw you in jail for that. We've discussed that one before. So,
getting your cavity search and everything. Why do you keep going to the UK? He's into it.
I don't know.
All right. That's it for the news articles. We'll go into health and fitness. And this is very exciting to me.
Yep.
Scientists identify a potential type 1 diabetes cure. And it is something. So type 1 diabetes, I'll explain it to people who may not know. There's two types of diabetes, or main types. There's type 1 and type 2. The major difference is type 1 diabetes happens when your pancreas stops producing insulin. So your immune system attacks your body, it attacks the pancreas stops producing insulin, so you're not processing carbohydrates anymore. They used to call it child onset diabetes because a lot of kids get it, but you can get it at any age. If you have the dormant gene in you, if you get really sick, usually it's what triggers it, and then you will have type 1 diabetes. That means your pancreas just stops working. You have to inject yourself with insulin. If you don't, you will starve to death no matter how much you eat.
Right.
Your blood sugar your sugar will go way high. It's really bad. It's a horrible thing to have happen. Type 2 diabetes is a little different. Usually what that means is you're overweight or you're getting older. Some people are just genetically inclined toward it. That doesn't mean you're going to have to take injections with insulin, depending on how bad it is. You can take a pill usually. Sometimes you can change your diet and it just goes away. So that's type 2 diabetes. Again, not necessarily your fault. Maybe it is. I mean, if you're severely obese and you get diabetes, what do you think was going to happen? As you get older, it's not your fault, but that's what's going to happen. So that's type 1 and type 2. Now, type 1, like I said, there's nothing that you do that causes it. And you can have it at any age and any body type, but it's a regiment after you get it. You have to check your blood sugar all the time. I'm going to eat something. I'm going to have to take insulin before I eat it. You don't want your blood sugar to get too high. You don't want it to get too low. It gets too high, you're going to get sick. If it gets way too high, you go into ketoacidosis and you could die. It goes too low, you could pass out. You could die from that too. So the real consequences for going too high and too low for type 1. I got a text saying that there have been trials in Switzerland, I want to say, and for a human, and over a year, they have not had to give themselves an insulin injection, and their blood sugar has been perfect for a year after this. That's really hopeful, because the key to this too is there's no rejection drugs you have to take. So in the past, what the thing is they take a pancreas from a cadaver, or not a cadaver, but somebody who had recently died, or a pig, and implant it into your body, and it would take the place and produce insulin. But you had to take a cocktail of medication every day so your body wouldn't reject it, because you're putting something in your body that's not yours. Your body automatically goes, kill it, get rid of it.
Right.
Naturally attacks it with white blood cells and stuff. So this is huge. And this could be a treatment for any autoimmune disease. And rheumatoid arthritis is another one. That's a huge one. Lupus, non-cancerous blood conditions like sickle cell anemia. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, this is an actual cure for diabetes, not just, we'll put you on insulin and you can control and live the rest of your life. This is an actual, we've cured it. We've got it figured out. And hopefully after the testing is done, this will basically put an end to diabetes type 1.
Yeah, it's the difference between a treatment and a cure.
Correct. This isn't like COVID. This is an actual cure.
Right. The funny thing is, everybody I've told about this, their same reaction is this: they better hide.
Yeah.
Place like Pfizer, this is type 1 diabetes is a multi-billion-dollar industry for them.
Yeah.
Those little test strips for your fingers, those little shots, the things that have to do it, and then they put it into a sensor. You've got you can put ones on your arm now. You've got a pump, or you've got the insulin and you've got the syringes. There's a lot of stuff that goes on to managing your diabetes that if this fixes it, that all goes away.
Yeah.
I hope that all goes away.
Yeah, it'd be
So
fantastic.
exciting stuff.
Yep.
Okay. That's it for the articles. Anything else, Dave, you want to shove in there at the last?
No, that pretty much covers it.
Okay.
We just
talk about our word of the day.
Word of the day.
Go ahead. Go for it.
So we were trying to figure out, what was basically been in the news recently, and we mostly hear about fraud. That's what we covered at the beginning of the show. But it's in Minnesota, it's always coming from the foreign community. So one of the things that is required of that is they assimilate. So that was a word that we thought that would was kind of make sure that people know what assimilate means. It's a verb. Basically means to consume and incorporate nutrients into the body after digestion. So that's basically what it means. But as far as we're concerned, one of the definitions is to absorb immigrants or a culturally distinct group into the prevailing culture. To bring a likeness or conformity to cause a resemblance between. So basically, it's them fitting into the culture of America. So what I was really curious about is where does that say that in the U.S. Constitution? And I found out that it actually is in there, but it's not for Native Americans. So Native Americans have got an exception to this. So if you're a Native group, but for what I found, it says the English language and U.S. civics tests required by the Immigration and Nationality Act are the most prominent modern examples. While framed as a practical necessity for civic engagement, they function as a legal gateway, ensuring that shared language and knowledge among all citizens is a form of encouraged standard assimilation. So to become a citizen, you have to assimilate to the culture, which means learn the language. That's why the CDLs we talked about earlier, about the driver's license, that was a problem. We talked about the Somali community not assimilating to Minnesota, because I've seen article after article about grifting in the Somali community in Somalia, but they're bringing that over instead of, being free.
Right.
So assimilate is kind of the word of the day, the word of the week. And
so when you move into a new place, you don't try to make that place like your old place. You figure out what the new people are like, and you try to fit into that place as best you can.
Correct.
Right. You go to another country, you try to learn language. You don't go outside their customs. If their custom is to wear a shirt outside, but you came from Hawaii and you're used to being shirtless, put on a shirt, right?
Right.
It's common courtesy, and that's the problem with importing 80,000, 100,000 Somalis. Put whatever word you want, whatever country you want, in a small location. They're going to turn it into that place.
Right.
And if that place is starkly different from where you're putting them, that's going to cause a lot of friction.
Yeah, kind of like Portland this week when they put up a Christmas tree and decided it wasn't a Christmas tree, it was a Unity Light Festival tree or something like that.
Portland never changed.
No, they're good. Just like Walz, they're good for a laugh.
Good for a laugh, but then a scary kind of laugh.
Yeah.
All right. I think that kind of does it.
That's enough. That's enough for handle for the holiday season. So.
All right. Well, thanks for sticking. If you watched it, I hope you liked it. we're going to be back here next week, probably a Wednesday or Thursday. It's kind of fluctuating right now with stuff going on because December is a busy month. So we'll try to give you as much advance warning as possible. But yeah, we'll come back here next week. Appreciate you guys all watching, and please like and subscribe. Thank you, Dave. You watch every video, they say that it gets to the point where it just rolls off everybody's back anymore.
Yeah.
All right.
Didn't have a different one for the different banner?
That will come on the end stream thing. So as soon as this thing goes away.
Okay.
Now you're seeing how this stuff works. Isn't it great?
Gotta look at it every now and then. Yep.
All right. Well, our working. So there we go. All right. You guys have a good night, and we'll see you next week.